Hello. Sunday, 6 December, 5:24 p.m. I thought I'll just make a video. I'm just gonna read an article by Brynn Tannehill. She's a trans woman. She's a director of advocacy of this organization called Sparta. I think they advocate for trans people in the military or something. I'm not sure. I didn't check it out, but this is an article she wrote for the Huffington Post. It's titled "How to Spot Anti-Trans Concern Trolls." So it was posted on 29 August 2015. So I'm just going to read it. Put the link below. More and more concerned trolls are hacking the discussion about transgender people in society. A concerned troll is a person who participates in a debate, posing as an actual or potential ally, who simply has some concerns they need answered before they will ally themselves with a cause. In reality, they are a critic or flat out someone who wishes harm upon the transgender community. Yeah, I also get this feeling like whenever I feel people criticizing transgenderism, I'm always like, what is your agenda? Anyway, the ultimate goal of a concerned troll is usually to keep transgender people marginalized, mistreated, and without legal protections. That is so bad. The best that can be said of these concerned trolls is that they have a very limited playbook. Never fear, though, as a community service, here are the key phrases and ideas that will help you spot them immediately. So there are about a list of, 8 or 9 or something. Number 1, concerned troll says, quote, transgender people often regret, end quote. No, regret transitioning or doing this or that. Anytime the subject of regret comes up in the media, it's usually, there is some, this regret thing is, it's not that simple. Anyway, anytime the subject of regret comes up in the media, it's usually in the context of denying transgender people affirming care or preventing them from transitioning. Because concerned troll is very worried about the well-being of transgender people and doesn't want them to rush into anything, really. The reality is that the existing guidelines for the treatment of transgender people are designed to prevent people from rushing into transition already and follow a very conservative timeline in order to prevent misdiagnoses. As a result, virtually every modern study puts regret below 2%. In some other recent longitudinal studies, none of the subjects expressed regret over medically transitioning. When people cited in anecdotes do have regrets, it is mostly because of lack of acceptance or poor surgical outcomes. And also because they might have unrealistic expectations. That, some people think the world is going to be magically just like a Disney, like great or something. But in short, concerned troll is more worried about the 1% of transgender people who might not benefit from transition at the expense of the 99% who will. If 99% of the people are happy with their transitions, it seems like, yeah, there is a risk of 1%, but 99% seems good. Yeah. But I wish it was 100%, but some people, you know, they have unrealistic expectations, so the surgeries might have gone bad, or people might still not accept you. That's also another problem. 2. Concern Troll says, quote, "What if society completely accepted gender variance? Then we wouldn't have to..." That's the quote. This line of thinking usually finishes with, quote, "Give transgender people medical care," or "Need laws protecting transgender people." The entire concept is asinine at many levels. Okay. First, the idea of culturally abolishing the concept of gender is about as likely as humanity abolishing the concept of money. Next, the idea that we should aim for a perfect society rather than have a system of laws that takes into account how humans have historically harmed each other isn't aiming for utopia. It is snake oil sold by rich heterosexual white male Christian libertarians who like the fact that being a rich heterosexual white male Christian is a position of unrivaled privilege. Beyond that, Concerned Troll ignores the reality of being transgender. They deliberately conflate gender identity, gender expression, and ignore the nature of dysphoria in order to sow doubt with readers. They push the notion that if transgender women, Concerned Troll ignores transgender men, which is kind of funny, could just put on 50s vintage house dress and flaunt around without fear of harassment, and that's a huge assumption to begin with, then we wouldn't have to give those people any medical care. This completely ignores the reality that transgender people have to look at ourselves in a mirror, or themselves. Increasing societal acceptance of gender non-conformance does nothing to alleviate dysphoria. Minority stress, social pressure, and isolation and dysphoria are two entirely separate concepts. Why does Concerned Troll say these things? Because it's good to be the king. Well, I really do. I guess what I gather from that is like a Concerned Troll is saying, "Oh, let's just let people express themselves however they want, and this way we don't have to give trans people any special legal rights or give them medically necessary care, because if everyone is free to dress how they want, that'll fix the problem." But she's saying that no, that really doesn't fix the problem, because like she said, trans people have to deal with their own dysphoria. It's not just about wearing dresses or whatever. It's about, like, for instance, like sometimes, like, for me, like, testosterone cook. It doesn't matter how I dress, the hormone testosterone is still in my system, and it creates distress. When it was gone, I feel really good now. I feel very calm and relaxed. So, and then there's that whole body change issue as well. So it's not just about gender expression, you see. The deliberate, that's what she says. There's this gender identity and there's gender expression. And then they're kind of two separate things. You can express yourself however you want, but that doesn't still deal with the gender identity issue, which is based on, kind of a self-perception, type thing. I don't know how to express that. Oh my god, I'm getting tired again. Jesus. Oh my god. Okay, number 3. I'm also trying to work on my voice. Concern Troll says, quote, 80% of children with cross-gender identification desist. So this is what she's writing. This comes from a Danish study. However, the actual study doesn't support this conclusion. First, it didn't discriminate between gender non-conforming children and those with insistent, consistent, and persistent cross-gender identification. Basically, the boys who liked playing with My Little Pony and sparkly dresses got lumped in with the ones who announced at 18 months they're a girl and keep it up for years. Yeah. The Danish study also lost track of a lot of the kids enrolled in it and counted all the children they could not account for as desisters. The American Psychological Association states that, quote, this research runs a strong risk of inflating estimates of the number of youth who do not persist with a TGNC identity. What does DGNC mean? The biggest proponent of the 80% narrative, Dr. Kenneth Zucker, pushed the idea that coercive behavior modification therapy could be used on children to change their sexual orientation for decades. Now that changing sexual orientation is passé, he's selling the same snake oil as a cure for transgender children. As a result of concerns over whether his treatments are ethical, Dr. Zucker's own clinic has forbidden him from taking on new patients. More recent research has shown that transgender children are not ones who are simply gender non-conforming, have a gender identity that is as consistent as that of cisgender children. Children who identify more intensely with a gender different than sex assigned at birth are more likely to persist in this gender identification into adolescence, and that when gender dysphoria persists through childhood and intensifies into adolescence, the likelihood of long-term TGNC identification increases. There is also a growing body of evidence that practices like Zucker's are actively harmful. People supporting, and that supporting transgender children leads to better mental health outcomes. As a result, there are fewer and fewer professionals who promote rejection of a child and their interests. Of a child's interests. When it comes to adolescence, even proponents of the 80% figure like Zucker admit that if an adolescent has cross-gender identification, it is very unlikely to ever change. So why does Concern Troll keep bringing up the 80% figure? Because Concern Troll wants transgender people back in deep, dark, safe closet. Okay, there's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Alright, there are 10 points. Alright, as you can see, it's she actually did this talk. It was a very good speech. I'll link this speech. I saw it on Vimeo. It was about how to advocate for trans rights. Just very, very good speech. So I'll put the link to this article. I think you can read the rest if you want to. I'll read it a little bit at a time. Anyway. Okay, that should be that. I think I'll probably do my exercise routine video tomorrow. I just started editing my weekly vlog and I'm like, I'm just like, oh, this is so tiring. I hate editing these videos. It's just so like, so much tiring. It is so much tiring.